Well, that was the case yesterday morning when he gave his 50-minute address. However, there seems to be some sort of a communication issue going on within the presidential office because later on in the evening, his one of his advisors said that the number 2,000, which refers to the number of seats for medical school admissions that the president has insisted upon, is not a quote-unquote absolute number. And later on, the president tweeted right after his aide had said that the 2,000 number was minimal. And so there was a lot of communication issues going on Monday. And just today, President Yoon addressed the doctors again, saying that he is willing to sit down with the doctors to discuss with them what their demands are. And so there seems to be at least some signals that the President Yoon is not as being strongly holding on to his position as he appeared to be until just yesterday.
That is fascinating. So do you feel like that might have something to do with it reflecting as an election issue for him?
The poll numbers are looking very bad for the ruling party at the moment. And yes, the doctor issues have turned a lot of voters away from the Conservative Party. And so he is under now immense pressure. And as you mentioned, elections are just a few days away now. And so he seems to be singing quite a different tune.
Yeah. Do you think, are there other issues behind his leadership and the fact that the polling suggests that his government is not popular?
There are certainly other issues going on, especially in the foreign policy realm, but that's not something that's affecting the president's numbers at the moment. For example, the president has been referring to North Korea's latest missile test this morning, but aside from the president and the defense ministry, no one else is talking about North Korea. It's a non-issue. And for your viewers in Australia who are more familiar with South Korea's choice for ambassador, that might come into play, but not yet. Right now, the doctor issue is a much bigger factor. But after the elections, where there will be investigations as to whether or not there was some sort of an attempt by the president to aid a criminal suspect to flee to Australia, of all places, to serve as an ambassador, that might come into investigations going forward.
Yeah, now tell us a little bit more about this, because it was a very sudden departure for this ambassador that was sent to Australia.
He was already coming under withering criticism the moment that he was appointed, and when he left for Australia, opposition party lawmakers tried to stop him at the airport. It didn't work. But as soon as he left, there was a lot of criticism, and it was just building up and up. And even lawmakers from within the president's party was saying that the Lee Jong-suk, the choice for ambassador, was a mistake, and that he should be brought back to Korea to face investigations. Ambassador Lee did come back to Korea. His excuse was that there was some sort of defense sector meeting and to meet with other ambassadors. But he came under immense pressure, and so he offered to resign. And as soon as he did, that very day, President Yoon Suk-yeol accepted his resignation.
Was he a captain's pick? I mean, who picked him to be ambassador?
That would be the president. The president picked him, and that very day, the foreign ministry gave him his papers that he could travel to Australia. So, yes, after the elections, when the election hype dies down and when there's additional focus on any sort of criminal doings or misuse of power, that will certainly come into play.
John, I want to go back a little bit now to the doctors. Last week, some of their colleagues went out in support of them. So how do you think this is going to be resolved? We know that it is really impacting the health system.
This issue will not be resolved before the elections. It will be going on for a very long time. The Korean Medical Association, which is the doctors' union here in South Korea, just elected a new leader. His name is Im Hyun-taek, and he is a hawk. He has demanded that the government must withdraw the 2,000 number and also fire the Vice Minister of Health in order for there to be any sort of negotiations between the doctors and the government. And because of this extremely strong response from the doctors, and the doctors do have a lot of leeway in their ability to negotiate, this will be going on for a long time.
Yeah. Now, you talk about the unpopularity of the president. Is there a viable alternative to potentially be voted in?
To be voted in, viable alternative. When it comes to the elections, It seems to be the status quo in the National Assembly will remain where they are at the moment. The current main opposition party, the Democratic Party, will retain its majority, but not to the extent that it has been over the past 4 years. But there is a new emerging minor opposition party called the Rebuilding Korea Party, which is probably going to get maybe up to anywhere between 10 to 20 seats in this election. And so with those two parties combined, their number of seats will far outnumber the ruling party. So the president looks like he will be a lame duck president, just 2 years into his presidency.
That's extraordinary. And, it's fascinating to watch. I mean, we had in Australia, we were, the government was hacked ahead of the last election. AI is now creating quite a discussion, and there have been some efforts to keep it out of the election. How did authorities believe AI would impact the election?
Artificial intelligence has been something that the South Korean government has been talking about for a while. They even brought it up during the Summit for Democracy, where they were talking about how artificial intelligence, deep fake videos, social media, they might have an impact on on the elections. And just recently, there were at least 2 instances where fake videos of the president and of the main opposition leader were circulated online. The government and the police came down very hard on this, and they said that they were going to investigate and charge anyone found circulating these videos and charge them with election interference. And so the government is very coming down strongly on this.
Yeah, it's going to be an issue for so many governments and elections. Great to talk, John. It'll be fascinating to watch the elections play out. Thank you.
Thank you.